Bang!
Did I scare you?
Testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing. I love bees. I like them because they make honey, and honey is sweet. And I like sweet things because I'm a large, rotund man. Welcome to today's video, everybody. Little bit different. I mean, it's only my third video, so I guess they're all different. But this time around, I am in my room again, as you can see. Last video, I was in a different country. Like I said, in the description of the last video, I was abroad for a little while. Don't think I said that. I think I just lied to you. I actually did just lie to you. I didn't say that, but I'm telling you now, so you should forgive me. Point is, I'm back in my room, and today I'm going to talk about nothing to do with cartoons, movies, or any of the normal stuff that I would talk about on this channel, or would plan to talk about on this channel. I'm going to talk about something I've been obsessed with for the past about 4 weeks, and that thing is analog horror. Now, analog horror has many different names, frankly. But the general gist is any kind of YouTube horror or internet horror, like, creepypastas or what have you, that presents itself through an analog lens. Analog meaning things like videotapes and newspaper articles, types of media that don't really exist anymore. Frankly, I'm a huge fan of analog stuff, but I mean, I'm a millennial, baby, so I don't watch VHS tapes anymore. I did when I was a toddler. I think the last VHS tape I had was like a SpongeBob thing. But there's other types, there's a lot of cool analog stuff out there that still exists today. You got typewriters. Newspapers, if you live in a big city and are rich. There's a lot of analog stuff that still kind of exists, but the general gist of analog horror is that it's stuff that doesn't really exist anymore, such as VHS tapes. There's a lot of VHS tape analog horror, and most of it lives in that realm. The same with cassette tapes as well, music tapes and stuff, or recording tapes. Those tend to also be a large contributor to the analog horror genre. Now, today, with that kind of introduction out of the way, I really want to get into a few analog horror series that I have either watched or watched summaries of, I should say, from people such as Wendigo and Nightmine and stuff. So I'm not going to say anything wholly new, but I do think that in the analog horror space, it can be really difficult for people to get invested and to fully understand how to enjoy this type of content, because there's not really there's not really a playbook, A, and B. It kind of needs a playbook because it's so all over the place. I mean, it's intentionally cryptic, right? That's the point of analog horror. It's meant to be kind of weird, kind of out there, kind of mysterious. That's part of the allure. And I don't really want to dispel that mystery, right? Like, there's something magical to stumbling across a YouTube video with 500 views and it's like just a bunch of weird images and noises, and then you get scared and have nightmares for a week. But I do think that there is merit in having a general overview of what this genre offers, and frankly, just that it exists, because there's a lot of people out there, myself included, who until about 4 weeks ago didn't even know it had a name. Yeah, so we're going to talk about 4: Greylock, the Mandela Catalog, the Backrooms, and Local 58. Now, I'm going to come at you with a little bit of honesty here. The only two that I have watched the entirety of in this set are Greylock and the Backrooms. So I have more of an understanding of what those two offer than I do the Mandela Catalog and Local 58. However, I have watched multiple summary videos about those two, mostly from Wendigo, frankly. Guy's awesome. Go and watch him. I can't link things in my description because YouTube fucking sucks and needs verification. Sorry, freaking sucks. But when I can, I will. But yeah, go and watch his summaries if you want to. They're a really good way to consume this stuff. But the point is, those are the 4 I'm going to be talking about today. And yeah, I'm going to start out with Greylock. Greylock, right off the bat, is just super heavy hitter. It is one of the scariest things I've seen in a long time. And beyond scary, it's just very pretty. A lot of like the grotesque body horror stuff is super well done. I don't know if he did Photoshop or if he just illustrated stuff, but it's gorgeous. All of like the grotesqueries and stuff, the violence in it is very pretty. It's very well done. It's very well shown. There's multiple moments in it that could be very like off-putting to the extent of pushing people away, but I think he does a really good job pacing it. But on a very surface level, it is a very pretty series. And I mean pretty in the blood and guts and violent sort of way, not the, flowers and unicorns and stuff. I mean, it's horror, you kind of come here to expect, you kind of come to expect that sort of thing from it. It is about, as a theme you will come to find very often in analog horror, but is government conspiracies / like capitalist and business, like big business conspiracies, which kind of ties in. Actually, not even kind of, just completely ties into government conspiracies. Basically the same kind of thing. Big corporation does bad thing in a town, but they are experimenting with these like mind thought form creatures, and in this world that this guy has created, organisms or creatures of some kind can be manifested by people thinking and coming up with them in their head. So essentially, people's imaginary friends can come to life, basically. Now, obviously, at first glance, that sounds terrifying. Kids are dumb. They create terrifying things in their heads, even if they want them to be their friend. Kids want bugs to be their friends, man, and bugs are scary. The conflict of Greylock is that the conflict of all analog horror really is that you never really know what's going on. But in Greylock specifically, it's that you don't really know whether it is these thought forms doing stuff or whether it is the corporations and the people doing stuff. To this small town in the Greylock Mountain area, which is actually like a real, I believe, national park, the Greylock Mountains. And you can go there and it's just nature trails and stuff. But they use that area as kind of a backdrop, or as a backdrop rather, to tell this haunting story of these thought form creatures being brought into existence and terrorizing the nearby towns, along with this corporation doing God knows what with them, or trying to do God knows what with them. As you will see if you go and check it out, they don't really have much control over what's going on. They don't really have much idea of what's going on. So it's they're well, okay, I shouldn't say that. From what we know, they don't seem to be doing a very good job of keeping control over the situation. As Greylock kind of continues, the thought form conflict with this corporation and these small towns kind of takes a back seat, and you get more into more traditional body horror. As probably my favorite part of Greylock, which is these miners, this mining company goes into the mountains and actually mines in because they find this system of tunnels in there that predates pretty much everybody in the Americas. They find relics from pretty much every culture in the world inside of this mountain, this series of tunnels and under this mountain. They start to get sick, these miners, and then they start to bad things start to happen to the miners, and it gets really gross and grotesque. There's this like tall man creature that shows up throughout the series. Just thinking about him makes me terrified that I can see my door in this. I don't like that because I'm thinking, what if he shows up in that door? I remember him, even though I told myself while I was watching it that he wasn't scary. He is scary. Tall man, terrifying. Anybody named Tall Man, if that's your thing, that's a weird thing. That's a terrifying feature, right? Being tall. The height is creepy. It's creepy as fuck. Short man, standard, not weird. Tall man, get out of my house, get out of my brain. I don't want to think about it. I've been sleeping with the lights on for a while because of this fucking thing. It's terrifying. Greylock, I think, is a great place to start for new people into introducing themselves into the analog horror space. Maybe behind another one, the Mandela Catalog, which I'll talk about next. But I do think that I think Greylock has the most intriguing presentation and setup And while it does get grotesque, a lot of the grotesqueries presented in Greylock are in the mind of the viewer, right? And that is something throughout a lot of analog horror, I would say, but specifically Greylock, I think, does one of the better jobs of inspiring your own mind into creating monsters. Because it doesn't show a lot, but the things it does show, like the colors, specifically colors and noises, a lot of what they use in Greylock, and a lot of noise and audio mixing specifically. God, it's just on point. I know it sounds like this doesn't sound like much, and that is something in analog horror, right? There is a suspension of disbelief that is required in order to even begin to get into it, because you're watching old VHS tapes that have been tampered with by monsters and creatures and things, or just people, right, messing with VHS tapes, or time even. The deterioration of the tape that happens over time. It wrecks the tape, and naturally there's a lot of like weird noises and things that come out of that, and so you got to suspend your disbelief a little bit because you can't usually see the monsters. But the magic of Greylock is that when you do see the monster, even if it is just in an image, your brain is already so prepped with all of the colors and noise that it already has shown you that you're already thinking of all the things that it could do. There's a scene where they talk about the monsters that exist in this world, or that have been kind of brought into this world, that I don't really want to talk about too much because I really want you to see it. I'll find a way to link it. But the beauty of this sequence, right, when they go over all these monsters, they do it kind of like you would like an evidence briefing in like a police procedural, right? They go over like the features of the monsters and talk about what they've done, and or I guess not an evidence briefing, more of a what do they call this? Like a press release, right? And they just have like a list of things that are they're not very detailed. They just tell you they just tell you the basic facts of what these monsters have done and what they are capable of, and you gotta do the rest. And for me and a lot of other people, because Greylock has grown in popularity, which is another reason to watch it, because you will find a community of people who are interested in talking about it. Another great thing about analog horror. Drawback. It's analog horror, so it's got the same drawback as every other analog horror, in that it isn't very active. I will say that. Most of what you're watching is still images with audio in the background. That is analog horror. Now, do I care that it's not very active? No, and here's why. I think what a lot of horror does wrong in the modern age is that it has a tendency to put, how do I say this? Maybe style over substance. A lot of modern horror films, and a lot of horror, and I can't even say modern, I think a lot of horror in general has a tendency to gloss, put this like coat of paint over the entire thing that makes it seem a lot scarier than it is. Whereas with analog horror, it's the exact opposite, right? There is no gloss. There's nothing there to like hide the bare bones aesthetic, and the fact that it is the bare bones production of it, right? They display that. Unabashedly, they show that they don't have much money and they don't fucking care, right? They don't have many resources to make this stuff, right? But because of that, because they don't have many resources, they tell you that at the start. They say, we don't have much, and it doesn't matter. So another aspect of Greylock that I really love, right, and I think is well worth a watch just for that, is the not only the audio, which I already spoke about, but is the imagery. When they show still images, they are these, frankly, I don't really know how they made them. I'm assuming Photoshop, right, and they took images of actual people, right, and then went over them and colored and painted and did these wonderful, disgusting caricatures of these people. There are depictions of child death in Greylock, which I will not. Well, I can't really show it because they don't really like show the scene, right? But that is another aspect of Greylock that I think is an analog horror that I think is very strong, is that they won't show a lot of that stuff. So even if you do get triggered by a lot of things, they won't necessarily show it. However, I will say that they do have, while they don't show it like visually, they do show it really with audio. Yeah, Greylock is really good. It's very pretty, like I said, and I will keep saying. It's very violent. It's very, it's got some incredible audio mixing. I think that is probably the highlight of it. And that really sets it above a lot of the others, because at the end of the day, a lot of analog horror is made or broken based off of its audio. I'm going to move on to the next piece of this little analog horror puzzle I'm putting together for y'all. And that is going to be the Mandela catalog. No connection to the Mandela effect. I mean, there's probably some like fucking metaphorical connection or something to the Mandela effect, but I mean, I don't know. I'm too dumb to figure that one out right now. But the general gist of the Mandela catalog is that there are these imposters in human society who try to kill and take over the person who they are impersonating. And they do that by killing them, right? And that's kind of the general gist, you know, classic Invasion of the Body Snatchers type stuff. That's the general idea. However, the caveat to that is that they don't actually kill the people. No, it's much worse. What they do is they terrify them to death. So they will keep haunting this person essentially, or keep basically haunting. They're essentially like ghosts or apparitions. I mean, they're physical, but they can kind of go in and out of space and stuff. They're not exactly three-dimensional beings, if you will. But they will use voices of loved ones, your voice, and other audio trickery and visual trickery to get you to lose your mind and kill yourself. And then they'll step into your shoes and do a bunch of bad shit in your wake. Now, the thing about this is that this is kind of just the bare bones beginning of the story. Mandela Catalog, I mean, as you will see if you go and check out any of the summary videos or analysis videos on YouTube, is incredibly long. And there's a lot to it. There's 3 seasons of it, which is crazy for analog horror, because usually there's only like 2 max in a lot of cases, at least for the ones I'm talking about and the ones that I've seen. Well, I love Greylock. I think this is a little more, maybe I know I said Greylock's probably the most approachable. I still think that's true, because I think that Greylock has the highest production value, but I do think that Mandela Catalog is a very good introduction, because it's very intriguing right off the bat, and the mystery is very unique, and they hit you with a lot of stuff right away, rather than, I feel like Greylock, while there's some active stuff towards the beginning, it starts a little slow, right? It starts with essentially just some old-timey videotapes of empty facilities and guys walking through the woods with not much going on. Whereas Mandela Catalog starts with a guy dying pretty much right away, and like torture and stuff, like psychological torture, of course, but still torture. And so it might be it just kind of depends on like your tolerance for slow starts, I guess, if you will. And I think everybody's got a different way about that. So that's really up to dealer's choice at the end of the day. But yeah, I think that Mandela Catalog has a stronger start at the very least. Yeah, Mandela Catalog does a few things that I really like. As I kind of already mentioned, the start is really good, and that is mostly due to the phenomenal audio mixing in it. A lot of the scares and the terror comes from, and I mean, this is similar for a lot of analog horror, as I outlined in the Greylock video, but man, Mandela Catalog really, it's a cut above when it comes to the audio, right? A lot of the stuff, a lot of the scares that you're getting are just, I mean, good Lord. They really hold on for a long period of time. I mean, there are like minute sections that are just terrifying, right? Of audio, of like people, not necessarily like screaming, but like you just like creepy ass voices talking about the most terrifying things. These are like doppelgangers, right? And so they're trying to develop the persona that they are trying to impersonate, right? And so a lot of the time, they don't have the voice fully down yet, right? They're still learning how to talk, mind you. right? Because they're these creatures, as far as we know, that are impersonating people are basically born into that form, right? It's not like they have years to learn how to speak, so they have to learn how to speak. A lot of the moment, like the scares, come from them just like saying normal things to people, but they're so broken and so screwed up that it's barely human, right? Like it feels like an alien trying, or like a it's like if a parrot tries to parrot what you say, but in a way that a parrot wouldn't do it, right? Like it's like trying, like, because like a parrot has like a normal way of like impersonating speech, right? They do it very shrill and bird like. With this, it's like they're actually trying to be human, and there's something about an alien creature trying to sound human to kill somebody with mental trickery that is just terrifying, I think, on a very primal level, trying to take over a person's life. I think that's scary. Now, I think one of the weaknesses in Mandela Catalog, oh, get that Vaseline out of the frame. Ooh, just kidding. We're going to have it right here. Ooh. I want it more in the frame. Yeah, there we go. Put it on the candle. Show her a good time. That's what I'm saying. The problem that I have with Mandela Catalog, frankly, is that I think it tries to bite off more than it can chew. And I think this is going to be a problem down the line with a lot of analog horror series because, again, they're not really going up in budget. It's not like a lot of these creators are making more. I mean, some of them are making more money because some of them blow up, but a lot of analog horror is still really unpopular, even towards the end, especially as it gets deeper because people aren't familiar with it. So why are they going to go watch the end first, right? And you never really know what's going to blow up. One of the ones I'll talk about next, or the next one I'll talk about, I guess, the Backrooms is a good example of one that did and is getting a lot of feedback and production values actually skyrocketing. But for something like Mandela Catalog that is a lot more niche and a lot less popular, they want to tell a cohesive narrative and tell a complete story. So they're trying to get into more techniques and things that require higher production values without getting the higher production value. And so you get a lot of moments in Mandela Catalog towards the end that are, they're trying, right? They're trying their best. But there's a lot of very edgelord moments where these live action actors will try to portray, and I don't think it's necessarily the actor's fault. If anything, I think it's more just the production's fault. I think that the lighting and stuff they use, it feels very like student emo film quality a lot of the time. And that's okay. No shame to them. They're trying, but I do think that in the long run, Mandela Catalog is definitely much weaker than Greylock because it tries to bite off so much more than it can actually chew. It's not great. Like it ditches some of the more like classic analog horror things of like the found footage and the creepy tape stuff, and it tries to show live action, and I just don't think that works really for it. That being said, I will say that I think for a lot of other people out there, Mandela Catalog might be better because it switches to live action, because found footage can be difficult for people to parse. It can be a little too much, I think, for a lot of people. And I think that's like I do recognize that, and I recognize that it can be triggering for people. So I think that live action on the line might be helpful to some people. And so if that sounds interesting to you, then this is definitely the one to check out. Either way, first couple of seasons of Mandela Catalog, phenomenal. They are really well done, really well paced, and even the final season is well paced. It's just the live action stuff kind of gets in the way. But I think, and I mean, it's not the final season. I think they're coming back for another one. Either way, point is, there's some really unique stuff going on in there towards the beginning with audio that I think is really worth the watch. And it's definitely, I think, a much better start than Greylock. But I think that once you get past the first couple episodes, I think Greylock definitely just hits it out of the water. I mean, good Lord, Greylock is on another level. But yeah, that's Mandela Catalog. Kind of just sliding right along like the little wormy snake guy I am. We're going to talk about Backrooms. Now, this is the one that if you click it on an analog horror video, I'm not going to say a lot of you have watched, but you've probably at least heard of, because it blew up on YouTube. It's got millions of views. Each of the videos is extremely popular. One of the most successful ARGs in history. If that alone doesn't get you into it, then I mean, the fact that it's all found footage, A, and B, it's all incredibly well shot found footage. And a lot of it is, according to the creator and the people I've watched like to do analyses on it, it is all
well, not all, but a lot of it is CG, right? Which is incredibly impressive, or at least like they're digitally created environments that real people are. I don't really know, actually. It might be mocap. I'm not entirely certain. It feels very student filmish, but it's like not because of the quality's low, just because it's like it's a YouTube project. So I mean, my guess is that they didn't they didn't have mocap. So, but I don't really know how they did it otherwise. Maybe it might be like a combination of like video game production type stuff. I don't know. I'm not in that space. I don't really know. It's really cool though. A lot of the environments are incredibly well detailed. The back rooms, just kind of a general idea of it, is this liminal space. And if you don't know what a liminal space is, it's essentially like an office complex or a hotel or some area that is meant to have a lot of people in it that doesn't. So it's like a dream space, right? And Backrooms just takes that idea of a dream space and just dials it up. It's basically just an endless corridor, a series of corridors of office complexes without any office equipment or people. But there are creepy ass monsters, and it's not just office complexes, it's a bunch of other weird ass spaces and things that shouldn't exist. The idea with the Backrooms is that any human being in the world, anywhere in the world, can just fall into them. And you're falling into another dimension that has its own threats and things, and there's no food, right? And so you can just be there forever, right? You can be in the Backrooms for all eternity, right? Or you could exit next week in another country, or as it happens in literally the first episode, the guy falls through falls back into reality, but he falls in the sky, and so he crashes into the earth. Granted, he's dead already, but still, I mean, he would have died either way, right? And so yeah, the Backrooms definitely is one of the more it's strange, but I think that, well, actually, I don't know why it's more popular. It is a weird one because I feel like Greylock and Mandela Catalog definitely are a little more approachable. I definitely wouldn't recommend Backrooms to like just the somebody who has never experienced analog horror before. I think that Mandela or Greylock are definitely better. But I mean, it's clearly done something right. I think that it's very pretty, and I think that the production value feels like, I mean, at times it feels like a feature film. It's very weird. Like people say that about like if you get into this space a lot, people will say shit like, "Oh, this is like a feature film." They say about Mandela Catalog a lot. I disagree. I don't. I think that the quality is a lot lower, and you can tell it's B horror a lot of the time. Backrooms is genuinely different. Like when I watched it, I was like, "Is this made by a professional filmmaker?" It feels crazy sometimes, and it's very minimalistic, but like it feels like a really well done A24 film. I'm such a movie guy. I'm such a movie guy. You know, I watch all the movies. Yeah, I watch a lot of the cool ones. Like I watch. You ever seen The Witch? I watched The Witch. There's a lot of production quality in it, but it is super weird. It's still like it's one of the most popular, and it is good. Like it is a good series. Genuinely speaking, it is really incredibly shot, and I love it. It doesn't go above Greylock for me, personally, just because I think that I think that Greylock has much better pacing. I think that Backrooms can be a little slow, and a lot of the moments in it, like I think there's a lot of payoff in Greylock that there isn't in the Backrooms. I don't think there's much catharsis or whatever the opposite of catharsis is when it comes to horror, I guess. But there's no like you know, there's definitely action. There's a lot of action actually in the Backrooms, but it's like it doesn't really amount to much, I feel like, in the end, at least where he's at right now. Now, I will say, this guy who's making them, his name's Kane Pixels, he is getting the opportunity, actually, to make a full feature film with, I don't think it's Blumhouse. I think it is A24. I don't know, though. I think he's directing or he's writing. Either way, he's a big part of it, right? Because he's essentially popularized it. Got a cup of Joe here. I'm going to give myself a little sip. I'm going to give myself a little sip, a little reward for what I've done here today. It appears to me that a lot of people really enjoy the Backrooms, and that likely you will too. And so, again, really any of these are a good starting place. I think Greylock is my personal pick for start, because I know that if I had seen that first, then I never would have been able to sleep again, and that would have been great for analog horror because then I would have been addicted, because I love not sleeping. Backrooms isn't my personal pick for start. It is honestly, I will, full transparency, it's where I started. And I think that there is merit to the hat. But yeah, Backrooms is obviously a good place to start, as well as many people have started there and gotten completely obsessed with analog horror. So yeah, that's the Backrooms. The final one I'm going to talk about today, that I think is a good introduction to this genre, is one called Local 58. Right off the bat, if you are into old internet stuff, you've probably seen this. This is one of the original analog horror series, one of the most popular. That's well, not maybe not most popular, but one of the ones that kind of jump started this genre, if you will. It comes from the creator of Candle Cove. It is from the perspective of a TV channel, and I believe a rural southern state, I think Virginia or something. And it is essentially showing the different time blocks of this TV channel. That is all community programming, right? And so, people can pay to have, or sometimes you can pay, but other times you will just go in and say, hey, I want this aired on your channel, and they'll air it, right? And so you get a lot of weird videos in there that are just like things like community created cooking shows and stuff. But a lot of what you see in Local 58 are these really strange skits relating to the moon. That's about all I'm going to say story-wise. Now, I think that what Local 58 does really well, and I think that it kind of goes above and beyond a lot of the other ones. I actually have in my notes written down for Greylock mixed media. I do think that it uses a lot of really good mixed media, like art, like digital drawings, digital paintings and stuff, and then also really good audio mixing and really good video. But I think, honestly, if I had to pick one that does it the best, it's probably Local 58. It says, and you already have this feeling that it's going to be really cheesy and cliched because it's like, oh, it's a local community TV station. So it's got to be, right? Because there's never anything good on those stations. But let me tell you, dude, a lot of the sketches and things that he has in this are shot so much better and like made so much better than anything that a local Bill Humbug is gonna make in fucking South Arkansas or whatever. Like, this shit is incredible. There's a whole animated skit in there that's like I think it's like 5 minutes or something. It's a really impressive skit. It's really well animated. It's gorgeous. There's a lot of really cool like background lore and stuff in there. The music and sound mixing is awesome. I could gush about the creation of that one for a long fucking time. But even like some of the other skits that are just like people walking through the woods or just noises or things, like it's really well done, really well put together. A lot of Local 58 is just kind of noise and then text on screen. But the mixing in there is so well done, and then he hits you with like the animated short, and it's so well put together. And I think that it's really impressive. If you like really good animation, I at least go watch that one. I'm pretty sure that he's got a playlist up on YouTube. It's so old that I'm betting he does, of just all his Local 58 videos, and I'm sure you can find the animated one. Again, this is another one that, like Greylock, is just a series. There's no like there are hidden messages in the videos, but beyond that, there's nothing. There's no like secret websites or anything you're gonna go find, right? It's all there for you, and it's awesome. And I love that. I like when it's just all there, dude. When I just have like a block of like 50-minute or hour-long content that I can just watch all at once like a movie. That's awesome. And it really, like, consuming Local 58 in whatever way you do, whether you watch an analysis video or you watch the whole thing, is I mean, it is like watching a movie. It is really well done. The plot is really awesome. It's really fun. It's not so crazy and out there that I mean, it is out there for sure. It's analog horror. All analog horror is out there. Freaking imposters and it's weird fucking alien creatures under mountains and in liminal spaces. But like this one, it's grounded in a way that I don't think even Greylock is. I think Greylock has a weird, a much more harder to comprehend story than this one. I think this one is like, there's essentially one villain, one thing, and that's it. Definitely, I think that it is less scary than Greylock. Again, like, it is still not at the top because it did not give me as big of chills. But definitely, if I'm out at night and I'm alone, I definitely think of Local 58, just as I think of all of these, right? But yeah, I still, I mean, Greylock still tops it, but it's still, it's definitely like, it's probably my number 2 out of this list, right? And I think that it is probably next to Greylock, the one I would recommend to people more, because it's so, A, it's so foundational. It's like all of these are based off of this basically. And B, it's just a, like, it's a really good ride. And I think it is fun and scary. And it's not like there's like the deeper meanings and stuff in it are not so deep that it's gonna be like ostracizing. Not that any of these have that, but like it doesn't deal with like religion and stuff. Whereas I think, like, I mean, Mandela Catalog, that's something I didn't really mention, but there's a lot of religious undertones in that. Whereas with Local 58, there's none of that, right? Local 58 and Greylock both are completely different. Well, actually, no, Greylock has a little bit. Local 58 though, nothing. It's just its own thing, telling a creepy, weird story through all these old community-made tapes and things that seemingly shouldn't exist but do. As with most analog horror, it's stuff that is just kind of like, you know, it's like found footage type stuff, kind of, but it's its own, yeah. It's got its own unique mix of stuff. There's a lot of different things going on, between like just text on a black screen with some weird audio in the background, to fully animated bits, to people walking through the woods and some live action stuff. It's really impressive. It's really well done. It's not too long. Local 58, honestly, out of all of these, is probably the one I would recommend the most to start with. It's either that or Mandela, but again, I think Mandela gets much weaker towards the back, so it's tough. Greylock is my top one, and then Backrooms is my final one. It's still really good. It's just, I think that it's just the most popular, and so I kind of feel like I have to mention it to people who haven't seen analog horror before, because it's kind of the goal here. But yeah, Local 58 is good. Yeah, and that's my list, guys. That's the list of I think the best analog horror to start with. You know, let me know what you guys like in the comments. Obviously, always, please say shit, say your truth, queen. I think that there's a lot of good shit out there, and I would love it if you could recommend some stuff. I have seen things like Vita Carn. I mean, I've kind of gone down a lot of rabbit holes here, but there's other good ones like Vita Carnus if you're really getting into it. There's you know, what's the other one that I watched recently? No. God, there's another one, but yeah, Vita Carnus I watched pretty recently. And then I think it's the Gemini Project as well. That's a pretty good one. And really, there's a lot of ways to consume this stuff. I always recommend going and watching the original. I think a lot of YouTube creators will do that too, which is always good. But just to give it more views for the algorithm. Yeah, if you really like this stuff, go check out there. Or if you think that this stuff seems cool, please go check out the originals. But also, there's a lot of really good creators who do analysis videos. If you afterwards you're feeling a little lost, please go check those out too. I really love doing that. It just adds to the amount of content you can consume around this stuff. It's like essentially you get a feature film length out of a lot of this stuff, and I really love that. Because I feel like it's better content to consume than mindless podcasts about monkeys, right? I think that is just a better thing. Yeah. But yeah, that's this video. Like, subscribe, have a good day or a bad one, or a good night or a bad night. I have my thumb up. You know, live your life, do your shit. I'm gonna have another sip of coffee. I'm gonna fucking shit myself as well, and maybe I'll film an outro later. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Put it in here if I did. If I didn't, bye.